Welcome back to American Nightmares, the channel where we dig into the darkest, most bone-chilling stories from across the USA. I'm your host, and tonight we're diving into one of the most infamous haunted houses in America, the Sallie House in Atchison, Kansas. From flickering lights to ghostly apparitions, from unexplained fires to violent scratches, this place has it all. The story of Tony and Debra Pickman will make you question what's real and what's lurking in the shadows. So grab a blanket, lock your doors, and let's step into the nightmare. That is, the Sallie House. This is American Nightmares. The tale starts in the mid-1800s, or so they say. Picture Atchison, Kansas, a quiet frontier town, gas lamps flickering in the night. Dr. Charles Finney, a local doctor, lived in a sturdy house at 508 North 2nd Street. One stormy night, a desperate knock woke him. At his door stood a woman, frantic, clutching her 6-year-old daughter. The girl was screaming, writhing in pain. Finney didn't hesitate. He carried her to his basement operating room, diagnosing a ruptured appendix. Time was ticking. But in his rush, he misjudged the anesthesia. The girl died on the table, her screams haunting the air as he tried to save her. That's the story folks tell about the Sallie House, said to be the origin of its resident ghost, a little girl named Sallie. It's a creepy tale, perfect for campfires and ghost tours. Trouble is, there's no evidence it's true. Charles Finney was real, a doctor who lived in that house, built by his family in the 1660s. The Finneys owned it for decades, and some died there. But no record mentions a girl named Sallie or a botched surgery. Still, something's in that house, and it's not just a story. Fast forward to 1992. Tony and Debra Pickman, a young couple, were starting fresh. Debra, originally from Buffalo, New York, had a lifelong curiosity about the paranormal, but no real encounters. Tony, raised Catholic, thought that stuff was nonsense. They were expecting their first kid and needed a place to call home. The house at 508 North 2nd Street was perfect, charming, historic, affordable. They signed the lease, moved in, and waited for their baby boy to arrive. For the first few weeks, it was all good. Then the weirdness started. It was subtle at first. Lights flickered while they watched TV, dimming like someone was messing with the wiring. Ceiling fan chains spun on their own even when the fan was off. They'd hear creaks, thumps, and faint whispers, but chalked it up to an old house settling. Just needs some TLC, Tony said. They called the landlord to check the electrical, but nothing was wrong. Still, the oddities piled up. Their newborn son was the real red flag. Every night they'd lay him in the nursery and he'd wake up screaming minutes later. Debra's sister visited to help, and when she took the baby downstairs, he slept through the night. The nursery, it seemed, was cursed. One evening, Tony walked past the nursery and froze. The light was on, which was odd. They'd just gotten home. In the middle of the floor, 3 of their baby's stuffed animals, a bear, a bunny, and a dog, were propped up in a perfect circle, like they were holding a secret meeting. He called down to Debra and her sister, who swore they hadn't touched the toys. They put the animals back on the shelf, turned off the light, and headed downstairs. Before they reached the bottom step, the light flicked back on. The toys were back on the floor, same creepy circle. They tried again. Light off, toys away. Same result. Light on, toys back. That night, they all crammed into the master bedroom, their dog standing guard, growling at the dark. That dog, by the way, hated the nursery. He'd plant himself in the doorway, hackles up, barking at nothing. Things got stranger. Tony started hearing footsteps racing up and down the stairs at night. He figured it was their cats, but when he checked, the stairwell was empty. One night, standing at the top, he felt a cold rush, like a wind passing through him, followed by the unmistakable giggle of kids. Another time, while napping, Tony shot upright,
stared at Debra, and growled, "He's mine," before collapsing back. Debra laughed it off as a weird dream, but the look in his eyes stuck with her. The house wasn't playing around anymore. Family photos lining the stairwell were found upside down, one with cracked glass. Candles melted without being lit, one still in its plastic wrapper, with a tiny handprint pressed into the wax. The wick wasn't even touched. Then Tony saw her. He was grabbing a juice from the kitchen one morning when he turned to see a little girl, maybe 6 or 7, standing by the basement door. She wore an old-fashioned white dress, like something from a church service a century ago. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. Tony froze. He could see through her. The glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. He bolted upstairs to find Debra, stammering about the girl. Later, he sketched her face. A former resident, a kid who'd lived there years before, saw the drawing and gasped. "That's my imaginary friend," she said. "I called her Sallie." But Sallie, or whatever it was, wasn't the only thing in the house. Tony started seeing Debra, or someone who looked like her, gliding through the halls in an old housemaid's outfit, hair in a tight bun. He'd follow her into a room, only to find it empty. Then came the fires. Small, targeted flames would flare up and vanish, on a doll's dress during a family party, on a nursery window frame, even on random objects. The damage was precise, like the fire came from inside the things. The family before the Pikmans had reported the same thing, unexplained fires that seemed to have a mind of their own. Desperate for answers, the Pikmans reached out for help. That's when the TV show Sightings got wind of their story. The crew rolled into Atchison, skeptical but intrigued, and what they captured made the Sallie House famous. They called it the Heartland Ghost. The team set up cameras, brought in psychics, and documented everything. At first, they kept the Pikmans' identities hidden, especially Tony's. He wasn't keen on being the guy haunted by a ghost. But the evidence was too wild to ignore. The Sightings crew caught scratches appearing on Tony's body in real time. Deep red welts, some bleeding, would form on his back, arms, and stomach, often with sharp pain. One time, the letters MC were carved into his torso on camera, a creepy nod to Michael C. Finney, the house's original builder. They recorded a 9-minute clip of a scratch forming on Tony's chest, slow and deliberate, like an invisible claw. The crew checked him constantly to rule out self-inflicted marks, but the scratches kept coming. Mediums brought in by Sightings claimed a little girl's spirit was in the house, desperate to protect the Pikman's baby. They named her Sallie, and Debra felt a strange urge to nurture the spirit. Tony wasn't buying it. Something about this girl felt wrong. The haunting turned violent. One night, Debra stepped out of the shower to find Tony clutching his leg. "She bit me," he said. Sure enough, a bite mark, small and human-like, was on his thigh. Then the scratches got worse. Tony would wake up with gashes across his body, some so deep they bled. Others appeared without pain, like a taunt. Whatever was in the house hated Tony. He started hearing whispers in the walls at night, 6 or 7 voices, muttering words he couldn't make out. One night, lying in bed, he saw dust particles swirling by the window. They grew darker, coalescing into a figure, an old woman in black, floating toward him. The drawers slammed open and shut. The waterbed rocked like a storm. She reached for his throat, screaming, "I'm gonna..." Then, in a flash, she turned into a giant black bird and vanished. Tony screamed for Debra, but she was across the hall with the baby and heard nothing. Tony's mental state was crumbling. He started having dark thoughts, urges to hurt Debra, to get her out of the way. He'd dream of slitting her throat with a butcher's knife. One morning, he blacked out in the kitchen, woke up at his parents' house, and came home to find their cat stabbed and pinned to the counter with a knife. Tony had no memory of it, but was sure he'd done it. The guilt crushed him. He sought therapy, but doctors found nothing wrong. The urges only hit when he was in the house. Outside, he was fine. Debra, caught up in the paranormal thrill, was blind to Tony's pain.
She was fascinated, even excited by the activity. Sightings kept coming back, and each visit made things worse for Tony. The scratches, the visions, the voices, they intensified. The crew caught more evidence, EVPs of children's voices, objects moving, and those eerie fires. Debra believed Sallie was a lost child trying to connect. Tony felt it was something darker, something wearing a child's face to trick them. The final straw came when Tony was thrown into the stairwell banister, breaking several rungs, like something was trying to hurl him down the stairs. That woke Debra up. She saw the toll it was taking on Tony, on their family. Within 3 weeks, they packed up and left. People asked why they stayed so long. It came in waves, Tony said. Months would pass with nothing, making them doubt themselves. Then it'd start again, each time darker, more violent. The house lives on.
After the Pikmans left, the Sallie House didn't stay quiet. A later tenant, a solitary woman, was evicted for trashing the place. The landlord found strange markings and names scrolled on the basement walls, with a pentagram painted on the floor. It looked like she'd been using the house for some kind of ritual. The basement, especially a dark hole where bricks were missing, has always been a hotspot. Tony avoided it like the plague. The Sallie House became a magnet for ghost hunters. Shows like Ghost Adventures brought the Pikmans back for investigations, and Tony, haunted by EVPs of children's voices, wondered if he'd misjudged the spirits. But every visit brought more violence, scratches, welts, and an unshakable feeling that something wanted him back. Countless investigators have recorded EVPs, photos, and videos, whispers, footsteps, even a chilling 2018 recording from the Astonishing Legends podcast. They left a recorder in the nursery and caught a voice, clear, guttural, inhuman, saying something that still gives listeners chills. No effects, just raw audio. It's the kind of thing that makes even skeptics pause.
Here at American Nightmares, we don't just tell ghost stories. We dig into what makes them tick. The Sallie House isn't just about a little girl's ghost. It's about a place that changes people, that gets under their skin. There's no proof Sallie existed, but the Pikmans' experiences, documented, filmed, and corroborated, can't be dismissed. Was it a spirit? A demon? Something psychological amplified by the house? Tony's violent urges, the targeted fires, the scratches appearing on camera, they point to something beyond normal. I'm an optimist, but a skeptic. I've never seen a ghost, but I want to believe. The Sallie House makes me wonder. That 2018 EVP, the one that froze me in my seat, is hard to shake. It's not just creepy, it's wrong, like something that doesn't belong in our world. If you're curious, check out the Astonishing Legends episode, but fair warning, it might keep you up at night. The Sallie House is still there, drawing ghost hunters from across the globe. People go in brave, come out shaken, and often feel a pull to return. Why? What's in those walls? That's the nightmare we're chasing. Thanks for joining us on American Nightmares. If you've got a story or want to hear more, drop it in the comments. Until next time, keep your lights on.